Good morning, everyone. I'm her JC Kwasem, BSB2 student from Caraga Institute of Technology. Today, I will be going to discuss my report all about understanding sexual harassment. Lesson 21. Lesson objectives. This module explains the various theoretical perspectives on sexual harassment. Also, this module discusses the law of the Philippines on sexual harassment in the academe and in the workplace. At the end of this module, you are expected to number 1. Understand fully the various theoretical perspectives on sexual harassment. Number 2. Distinguish the various theoretical perspectives on sexual harassment from each other. And number 3. Understand the laws of the Philippines on sexual harassment in the academe and in the workplace. Definition of term. Sexual harassment. It is an act or a series of acts involving any unwelcome sexual advance, request or demand for a sexual favor, or other verbal or physical behavior of a sexual nature committed by a government employee or official in a work-related, training, or education-related environment. Introduction. Sexual harassment. Harassment and sexual harassment are recognized as a form of discrimination on the grounds of sex and thus are contrary to the principle of equal treatment between men and women. Namisar, Henning, and Lalom 2012. Like many other crimes, sexual harassment is all about power, control, and domination. International Labor Organization or ILO 2001 defines sexual harassment as a sex-based behavior that is unwelcome and offensive to the recipient. Thus, sexual harassment is not merely a problem of safety and health and unacceptable working conditions, but it also a form of violence primarily against women. ILO 1992. In the Philippines, Republic Act Number 7877 or the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act of 1995 defines work, education, or training-related sexual harassment is committed by an employer, employee, manager, supervisor, agent of the employer, teacher, instructor, professor, coach, trainer, or any other person who, having authority, influence, or moral ascendancy another in a work or training or education environment, demand, request, or other requires any sexual favor from the other, regardless of whether the demand, request, or requirement for submission is accepted by the object of the said act. Theoretical perspectives of sexual harassment. Sexual harassment cannot be understood from the perspective of a single theory, but it's always the combination of different predators. Previous researchers have looked at sexual harassment using a number of frameworks including organizational approach, feminist theory, role theory, or attributional models of sexual harassment. However, all these models share common basic assumptions and can be labeled as socio-cultural models of sexual harassment. Sheets and Braver 1999. However, there have been 5 widely accepted theories of sexual harassment that attempt to explain the phenomenon from different angles and perspectives to be. Number 1. Natural biological theory. According to this model, men have stronger sex drives and are therefore biologically motivated to engage in sexual pursuit of women. Thus, the harassing behavior is not meant to be offensive or discriminatory, but is merely the result of biological urges. Its assumptions include a natural, mutual attraction between men and women, a stronger male sex drive, and men in the role of sexual initiators. A key strength of natural biological perspective is that it acknowledges the innate human instincts potentially driving sexual aggressive behavior. Tangri et al. 1982. Number 2. Sex role spillover theory. This theory is based on the proposition of irrelevant gender-based role expectations that individuals bring to the workplace in guiding their interactions with women. Men hold role perceptions of women based on their traditional role in our culture. When women takes jobs outside of these traditional areas to work in the male-dominated workplace, men rely on these gender-based expectations when interacting with women. Therefore, perceiving women in their gender role over and above their work role. Therefore, men are more likely to sexualize their experiences, including work experiences, and are therefore more likely to make sexual remarks or engage sexualized behavior, thus accounting for the fact that women experience more sexual harassment than men. Barbara Gotek, 1982. Number 3. Organizational theory. Proponents of this theory propose that one of the central concepts that helped explain sexual harassment is power. Cleveland and Kurz, 1993. This theory proposes that sexual harassment results from the opportunities presented by power and authority relations which derive from hierar- hierarchical structures of organizations. Gruber, 1992. This perspective emphasizes that the structure of organizational hierarchy in power in certain individuals over others that can lead to abuse. Thus, sexual harassment is all about expression of male power over women that sustains patriarchal relations. Number 4. Socio-cultural theory. Sociocultural theories examine the wider social and political context in which sexual harassment is a logical consequence of the gender inequality and sexism that already exist in society. Gothic, 1985, Thomas and Kitzinger, 1997. This theory asserts that women's lesser status in the larger society is reflected at the workplace structures and culture. Thus, male dominance continues to be the rule. Herein, sexual harassment is only one manifestation of a much larger patriarchal system in which men are the dominant group, reflecting the larger society's differential distribution of power and status between the sexes. The perpetrators of sexual harassment have no regard for women as an equal human being. Therefore, molesting women is a part and parcel of male idea of fun in the society. Number 5. Feminist theory. According to the feminist perspective, sexual harassment is linked to the sexist male ideology of male dominance and male superiority in the society. Therefore, feminist theories view sexual harassment as the product of a gender system maintained by a dominant, normative form of masculinity. Thus, sexual harassment exists because of the views on women as the inferior sex, but also sexual harassment serves to maintain the already existing gender stratification by emphasizing sex role expectations. Gothic, 1985. Relevance of sexual harassment theories. An interpretation of these theoretical perspectives reveals that both biologically as well as culturally, men happen to have always occupied a dominant man position over women in societies, of which the workplaces are only a part. Considerable data have been accumulated confirming that harassment is widespread in both the public Culbertson et al. 1992, Fitzgerald et al. 1997. And the private sectors, and it has significant consequences for the employees' health and psychological well-being. Fitzgerald 1993, Schneider et al. 1997. Therefore, the vulnerability of women as a weaker sex has traveled towards workplaces and academia, where it is considered natural and normal for men to be responding sexually towards women as colleagues, subordinates, and superior. Philippine Laws on Sexual Harassment. Republic Act Number 7877 or the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act of 1995, RA 7877, is the governing law of work, education, or training-related sexual harassment. Especially in a work-related or employment environment, sexual harassment committed when number 1. The sexual favor is made as a condition in the hiring or in the employment, re-employment, or continued employment of said individual, or in granting said individual favorable compensation, terms of conditions, promotions, or privileges, or the refusal to grant the sexual favor results in limiting, segregating, or classifying the employee, which in any way would discriminate, deprive, or diminish employment opportunities or otherwise adversely affect said employee. Number 2. The above acts would impair the employee's rights or privileges under existing labor laws, or number 3. The above acts would result in an intimidating, hostile or offensive environment for the employee. On the other hand, in an education or training environment, sexual harassment is committed. Number 1. Against one who is under the care, custody, or supervision of the offender. Number 2. Against one who is education, training, apprenticeship, or tutorship is entrusted to the offender. Number 3. When the sexual favor is made a condition to the giving of a passing grade, granting of honors and scholarships, or the payment of a stipend, allowance, or other benefits or privileges or consideration, or number 4, when the sexual advances results in an intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment for the student, trainee, or apprentice. Sexual harassment in the civil service. Sexual harassment in the civil service is punishable by Civil Service Commission number 010940, also known as Administrative Disciplinary Rules on Sexual Harassment Cases. Here, sexual harassment can be committed at the following places. Number 1. In the premises of the workplace or office or of the school or training institution. Number 2. In any place where the parties were found as a result of work or education or training responsibilities or relations. Number 3. At work, education or training related social functions. Number 4. While on official business outside the office or school or training institution or during work, school or training related. Number 5. At official conferences for a symposium or training session, or number 6. By telephone, cellular phone, fax machine, or electronic mail. The following forms of sexual harassment are committed through number 1. Physical, A. Malicious touching, B. Over sexual advances, C. Gestures with lewd insinuation, 2. Verbal such as but not limited to A. Requests or demands for sexual favors, and B. Lurid remarks. 3. Use of objects, pictures, or graphics, letters, or written notes with sexual underpinnings. Number 4. Other forms analogous to the foregoing. Summary. Sexual harassment constitutes an extremely important kind of violence which has been existing and rampant in the Philippines and worldwide. This complex concept consists of several theories and are punished by Philippine laws. The Philippine laws on sexual harassment punishes work-related training or education environment sexual harassment. It can happen everywhere. The acts of sexual harassment are also punishable by law. That's all. Thank you and keep safe.